Welcome to Testaments with Jerry. I am Jerry Flanagan, and this is part 3 of our series of The Iron Puddler, My Life in the Rolling Mills and What Came of It, which chronicles author James J. Davis's dramatic rise from an immigrant child experiencing unrequited toil and Southern peonage to becoming the U.S. Secretary of Labor.
Part 3, the second act, from fraternity leader to cabinet post and the puddling of men. Chapter 13, the vision of fraternity, founding Mooseheart. Though the loyal order of Moose's potential for fraternity and humanitarian work seized my imagination, I believed that man's inherent instinct for brotherhood represented a vast reserve of social energy that could be harnessed to lift our civilization toward perfection. I sincerely believed the tragic wastage of child life caused by the death of parents and the subsequent scattering of children had to be addressed. The scattered family was the tragedy of the poor, where brothers and sisters might never see each other again, lacking the protection that property provided to children of the merchant class. I believed the loyal order of Moose was uniquely suited to cope with this issue. For the first year, progress was slow, and I worried that a lifetime would be insufficient to realize the dream. However, my stubborn Welsh blood, the instinct to hang on that characterized my people, forbade me from despairing. By the 1910 convention, my preliminary efforts began to show results. Membership had swelled to 80,000, and with this growth assured, the organization resolved to start the actual work of founding an educational institution, laying a tax of 2 cents a week on members, later increased to 4 cents. The Mooseheart idea captivated the men, and after land was purchased and a building erected, the school was dedicated in 1913, serving 11 children. The membership swept past the 100,000 mark and surged toward the 500,000 goal. The dream had come true. Mooseheart, located in the Fox River Valley west of Chicago, now serves more than 1,000 fatherless children and their mothers, along with aged men whose working days are over, making it in many ways the most wonderful city in the world. Chapter 14, the philosophy of the new education. When the Moose Committee decided on the curriculum for Mooseheart, there was a suggestion for a normal school to train teachers. I immediately objected, stating that the world was already well supplied with people who wanted to teach others what to do, but nobody cared to do the actual work. I insisted that handwork will make a country rich and mouthwork will make it poor. I argued that the civilization I helped build was based on the iron I wrought with my hands, not the speeches I made. The first law of civilized life is labor, and labor is the giver of all good things. Therefore, at Mooseheart, we established a pre-vocational school focused on preparing the students for industrial life. We teach fundamental trades that nourish industrial life, such as farming, carpentry, cement construction, blacksmithing, and gas engine building, none of which draw nutriment from Greek or Latin. While I hold no malice toward literature or the classics, I promote industrial trades because they educated and promoted me. The education provided at Mooseheart is designed to be a complete preparation for life. The school is founded on the soil, occupying more than 1,000 acres of the richest farmland in Illinois, ensuring that the first lesson the students learn is that all wealth comes out of the earth. The children are set down in the midst of this busy farm, where they learn to raise gardens, chickens, swine, and dairy cattle. This grounding in agriculture is required because any race that does not take to the soil will lose its country to an incoming race that loves the soil, as the Japanese farmers in California have demonstrated. After the agricultural groundwork, the students are introduced to mechanical trades, from which they specialize, ensuring that they graduate at 18 prepared for life with a high school education and a trade. That is my enduring motto. Learning comes easily in such a setting, and many boys leave with 2 or more finished trades. I asked graduates of traditional colleges who spoke of Rome's builders and philosophers if they knew how to make concrete, and they confessed they did not. But the luck of the Mooseheart boy is in his own hands. They learn how to make concrete roads, build motor trucks, and run a farm. Mooseheart is run as a town, not an institution, and we cast away institutionalism. The young people live in cottages where they do their own cooking and housekeeping, often led by a matron or a widow who came to Mooseheart with her children. The system ensures that the boys and girls encounter every problem they will face in the wider world, preparing them for a free life. I recall one time when 3 boys, about 14 years old, went on strike because the proctor asked them to scrub the dining room floor on their knees, thinking the work would degrade them. I told them that scrubbing a floor never hurt my character. I had been a bootblack and had scrubbed floors for my mother many a time. I pointed out that the superintendent, a Harvard man, had worked his way through school as a bellboy. I told them, fellows that balk on a job never go far. A balky man is like a balky horse. Everybody gets rid of him as quickly as they can. The leader, who decided the strike was wrong, led them back to the task, proving that the training fostered initiative and solid judgment. The Mooseheart School, though not individually rich, proved that in cooperation they are wealthy, having built a $5 million plant and securing revenue of over $1 million a year to maintain it, all without an endowment from the state or nation. Chapter 15. The Lessons of War and Moral Law. My life was spent giving the growing land the iron its body needed, and I knew that this Iron Age was built on muscle and skill. During my work with the Loyal Order of Moose, the looming shadow of the First World War forced me to apply the lessons of iron to the problems of humanity. When I was in France during the Great Hindenburg Offensive in the spring of 1916, the French soldiers were worried and asked what word I brought from America. I told them that I was an iron worker and could speak for the workers. Their hearts are in this cause. They will work as one man until all the iron in the mountains of America is hurled into the belly of the Huns. It was a war of iron, and the Kaiser had coal and steel to move armies. The French were saved at Verdun not only by their own courage, but also by the American motor trucks, which, running without rails or coal, brought troops and munitions when the Germans thought they had cut off the supply lines. Thus the genius of the Oil King and the Iron Master saved our civilization. The war drove home the lesson that education in the wrong direction can destroy a nation. The German worker was taught that he would get rich not by patient toil, but by taking by force the wealth that others created. Their blood and iron policy sought to destroy civilization. I told the iron workers in convention that the iron of the Republic would beat down the iron of the kings, and we would set the German workers free from their foul belief in murder and in kings. My mission, which I dedicated my whole life to, became bringing the ample education that the rich man gives his son to the poor man's boy. I believe that equal education will make men equal in the gaining of wealth. Education is democracy. I was handicapped in life because I lacked education, but it was better to have no education than a false one, because I was left free to know the truth when I found it. Chapter 16. Transition to Public Service and Final Policies, 1921 to 1922. My public career, founded on the principle that honesty is the best policy because it is the only policy that wins, led me to the highest levels of government. The confidence I won while city clerk and county recorder, where employers who once opposed me later said, "Davis is the man for the job," was crucial. My elevation to the cabinet post of Secretary of Labour marked the curtain rise on the second act of my dramatic life. I was determined to approach each problem from both the economic and the human angle. I took guidance from President Harding, whose words emphasized that the human element comes first, and that employers and wage earners must understand each other's burdens as well as their obligations to the public. In this office, I found that my duty was simply justice and my policy was honesty. I was slow to reach decisions, demanding all the facts before arguing ended and judgment began. Since both sides believed me to be sincere and fair, they took confidence in each other and accepted my suggestions. The Labour Department was able to settle 3,600 out of 4,000 disputes, directly involving approximately 3.5 million workers. When dealing with the problems of labour, I constantly fought the confusing jargon used by theorists. I learned this lesson early when, as city clerk, a man was almost sent to jail because he couldn't understand the lawyer's questions, proving that thick-shelled words do make a prison. I have spent my life changing big words into little words so the employee can know what the employer is saying. I also had to combat the false theories regarding capital and labour. I agreed with Abraham Lincoln that labour is prior to and independent of capital, based on the fact that I laboured to break branches before I had the capital, such as fish, which I traded for shoe blacking. However, calling the employee labour and the employer capital is nonsense, implying that the man is on the job before the job is created. Capital does not always mean employer. For example, a Liberty Bond is capital, but not an employer. The misuse of words can cause a miscarriage of justice. Conclusion: the Iron Puddler's final word. As I reflected on my life in 1922, I affirmed that work is a blessing, not a curse, and that the man who does not turn capitalist and secure a home for his old age is lacking in foresight. The wealth we enjoy today is due to the preceding generation who stored up capital, built railroads, and worked overtime. If labour loafs on the job, it injures itself first, because the world's surplus of supplies is only about 2 weeks ahead of starvation. The wolf of famine is always just 2 weeks away, and if we stumble for a moment, he gets nearer. The greatest danger to America comes from propagandists, slackers, sick men, and fools whom nature uses to undermine the race that conquered her. They advocate one big strike to destroy capital, the food supply, which is the secret agent of starvation. Capitalism, though imperfect, is the only system that has banished famine and allowed the world to feed twice as many mouths as could be fed before. We have created a world of steel by puddling the pig iron until the dross was out, but a steel world is hopeless if men remain pig iron. The task remains to purify men as we have purified metals. Greed, envy, and malice are the dross, but brotherhood is the true metal. My ultimate task is to puddle out the impurities so that the true iron can be strong enough to hold our civilization up forever. I have been a puddler of iron, and I would be a puddler of men. Life is a struggle, and calm is death. My lessons were learned at the forge, and I am grateful for that schooling. I have dedicated my life to the cause of equal education for our young, believing that my heart, which beats for liberty and equality, should be given to this cause until its last beat. Like the French soldier dying on the battlefield, I say to you that this body I will give at last back to the iron earth where my muscles took their form. I only know that toil and struggle are sweet, and that life well lived is victory. Man must face an iron world, but he is iron too to subdue it.
Glossary. Puddlerisms, the moral code of the Iron Puddler. The Iron Puddler contains numerous moral and philosophical interjections that form the core of James J. Davis's worldview, drawn heavily from his experiences in labor, poverty, and political office. These statements consistently champion integrity, reason, and self-reliance against envy, passion, and false theories. Puddlerisms 1. Logic, reason, and the dangers of passion. Davis frequently contrasts logical decision-making with the destructive force of mob mentality, emphasizing the necessity of individual responsibility and practical facts. He learned that the theory that men can quit work and loaf their way to wealth, as the Russians attempted, was madness that only led to hunger, misery, and peonage. He observed that those who experienced servitude knew that radical orators were fooling no one by calling American wages slavery, asking that if daily wages is slavery,
God grant that they never set us free again.
His analysis of the defeated strike taught him that.
A mob is guided by passion and denies responsibility, whereas a movement is guided by logic, law, and personal responsibility.
This solidified his fundamental belief that
no movement based on passion finally wins. No movement based on reason finally fails.
He discovered that.
Life won't tell a fellow any lies.
And any argument that goes contrary to human nature, such as the grub reformer railing against necessary dietary fats, has
struck a snag before it is started.
He stressed that a man needs knowledge to tell the good from the bad, lest millions vote for a poison that would destroy the nation, concluding that a worker needs
a high school education and a trade.
He noted the danger of it.
Thick-shelled words and jargon,
which act as prison bars that separate workers from professionals and can lead to a miscarriage of justice. He dedicated himself to changing big words into little words so the employee can know what the employer is saying. He affirmed that.
Experience is the foremost teacher,
and he learned something from every adventure he had. Puddlerisms 2, envy, malice, and the puddling of human impurities. A key recurring theme is the condemnation of envy and malice, which he sees as the dross or sulfur preventing social harmony. The 10 Commandments forbid covetousness, and the Golden Rule forbade him from destroying the profits of the industrial captains. He maintained that his loyalty was to truth and safety, not blind Union spite. He identified that the uplifter and the communist agitator, Comrade Bannerman, were fundamentally driven by envy of the successful or healthy. He determined that intellectuals is often a term that
weak men crazed with envy give to themselves.
He believed his true mission was to promote brotherhood,
not the bloodshed lusted for by envious men.
He philosophically compared man's moral nature to iron, noting that
envy, greed, and malice are mixed with every man's nature.
He states that his ultimate task is to
puddle out the impurities, so that the true metal of brotherhood can remain strong enough to hold up civilization forever.
He asserted that the greatest danger to America comes from
propagandists, slackers, sick men, and fools,
whom nature uses to undermine the nation that conquered her. Puddlerisms 3, Capital, Labor, and the Moral Law. Davis frequently discussed economic relationships, always anchoring them to basic moral principles and the value of work. He was taught by his mother and father that
Proverbs, the Commandments, and the Golden Rule answer all our problems.
His father taught him to expect no gift from life, but that what he gets, he
must win with his hands.
He concluded that
labor makes the present day safe, but the present day only. Capital safeguards the future.
He realized that the laborer who does not turn capitalist and secure a home for his old age
is lacking in foresight.
His political success proved that.
Honesty is the best policy because it is the only policy that wins.
He stressed that dishonesty is not confined to any one class, and whether employer or employee does the robbing,
the public is the one that's robbed.
He stated that capital and labor are often improperly labeled, while agreeing with Abraham Lincoln that
labor is prior to and independent of capital.
He argued it is nonsense to believe that the employee is independent of the employer, or that
the man is on the job before the job is created.
And he concluded that
Capitalism, though imperfect, is the only system that has banished famine,
having allowed the world to feed twice as many mouths as could be fed before. He warned that the
world's surplus of supplies is only about 2 weeks ahead of starvation.
His philosophy for education at Mooseheart was rooted in the belief
handwork will make a country rich and mouthwork will make it poor.
He argued that
education is democracy,
and that equal education will make men equal in the gaining of wealth. Well, that concludes our abridged version of The Iron Puddler, My Life in the Rolling Mills and What Came of It by James J. Davis. If you'd like to share a memoir or autobiography of a loved one on this platform, please message and follow us. Thank you for listening.